And now it's time for our 2022 Man of the Year Award.
I knew he was on the football team. I thought he was terrible. He had been asking me out the night before the game. I kept saying, don't you have a curfew? And he goes, no, I don't. I thought, guy, he must stink. I went to a really powerhouse high school. Brett Johnson went to UCLA, Rob Johnson went to USC, then Steve Stenstrom was my year, he went to Stanford. So guys, Steve was like, oh, I heard you're dating the big man on campus. And I was like, haha, we can't all be the quarterback, Steve. And I thought he was, egging me on. They literally drove me to Save On and showed me the cover of the Pac-10 magazine. And Jonathan Ogden for UCLA was on one side and Tony was on the other for USC. And I was like, no way. I couldn't believe it. I was like, you're good at football. And he was like, what do you mean? You didn't think I was good? No, I didn't.
I guess it's a good thing. So at least I know she didn't date me, because I was good at football.
6'7", 327 pounds. I don't really know if there's anybody to even compare.
I got a phone call from the Jags saying, hey, the Cincinnati Bengals have traded up, and we're hearing they might take you.
15 minutes between the picks in those days. I mean, you could have gone to lunch and come back. I still let it go maybe 12 minutes. It went quite a while.
Like just after 11 minutes, they say the pick's in, and I get a phone call, and it's Tom telling me they made the pick.
With the second choice in the draft, the Jacksonville Jaguars select Tony Boselli.
Tony Boselli, the tackle from Southern California. Goes with the second pick selection, the USC offensive line, the top 5 of the draft.
We started camp like 3 days after 4th of July. I think we had to be there July 6th or 7th to start. It's from sun up till sundown, and Tom is taking every second of the day.
It was one of the very first days, if not the first day, that we were in pads, and so I put on my bull horns and I put the bull rush on him, and his knee gave out.
At the time, I was devastated because I'm like, my one fear was happening. I was set on coming back as fast as I could, as early as I could, and pushing the envelope.
I'll be a son of a gun. He was ready to go when they said he was ready to go.
Defense, people believe that Tony Boselli can be a great left tackle.
I knew at that moment,
USC John Robinson, he's the best offensive tackle he's ever seen.
I can do this.
He's out of his mind. He's going at
That's what you want. You want an offensive lineman just like that, man. You don't want to anger a superstar.
He dominated great players. He dominated Derek Thomas and Jason Taylor. I mean, these guys are Hall of Famers, and he dominated them.
Tony walked in and I saw Tom walk out and he was like, we're going to Houston.
The person that we're selecting as our #1 pick is an All-Pro on the field. He's an All-Pro off the field. He's a 5-time Pro Bowler. He's the offensive tackle, Tony Boselli.
The shoulder just wasn't going to hold up, and I couldn't do what I needed to do, so that's when I decided to retire.
To go into that stadium and watch my husband doing everything known to man to get out on that football field and never have the opportunity, that was hard. It was really hard, and it was hard for him to know when enough was enough.
Everything changed. It felt, there was a death inside of me, I know.
If anyone had a reason to be bitter, I imagined it could have been Tony, and it hurt the way he had to leave, but they knocked him off the horse, and it didn't take long for him to get right back on it and start riding.
You know, I've known Tony for a long time. I've seen him as a finalist at Super Bowl, you know, every year the last, number of years. This is going to be amazing. I'm excited to see his reaction because, like I said, I've seen him after the knock and him not getting in, and it's, he's been upbeat, but you can tell it's crushed him. So I know this is going to just take off the other way and just be so exciting for him. You know how I feel about your game, man, right?
Yeah.
I've told you year after year, welcome to Canton.
There's no one else I'd rather hear this news from than you, man. No one else.
Thank you. It is an honor and a privilege, man.
You have no idea. It's my privilege. You're the man I looked up to all those years, man. This is who I wanted to be.
Well, now, hey, we both played at SC, but now we can say we're teammates forever.
I love it.
I do too.
Thanks for welcoming me to the family.
Tony Boselli spent 7 years with the Jaguars, mauling defensive linemen. We saw what you did against Bruce Smith, an all-timer. Upon his retirement, Jacksonville signed him to a one-day contract so he could retire as a Jaguar. He was their franchise. They retired his number 71. He'll always be a Jaguar. And it's really cool to see Munoz, legendary USC, a legendary USC in the future, here with another USC icon. It is now a pleasure to present the Walter Camp Football Foundation Man of the Year Award, a three-time All-American, member of the College and Pro Football Halls of Fame from the University of Southern California, Don Bosco Anthony Boselli, Jr.
Kevin had to do it. You're probably going, who the hell is Don Bosco Anthony Boselli Jr.? That's me. Longer story. You think first of all, let me thank the Walter Camp Foundation and the team. I was here 30 years ago, sitting in this room as a guy who just finished his sophomore year in college and made the All-American team, and it was one of the great weekends. And I ate Pepe's Pizza, and the first thing when I got here, I told Jimmy right there, I said, Jimmy, take me to Pepe's, we need pizza. And I got a couple pizzas coming to the hotel tonight, so but it's good to hear. But you think they'd treat the Man of the Year a little bit better than they've treated me right now. This morning at the breakfast, I had to follow Braden's story, overcoming almost dying on the football field, and one of the great stories of high school football in Connecticut and what he's overcome in his family. And I sat there, and I was called up next to speak after Braden. I'm like, are you kidding me? And then to top it, Victoria. She's basically in a coma for 4 years, and now she's on ESPN. I mean, don't you do like after the Man of the Year or way before the Man of the Year? I'm like, hell, I got nothing to say. I got some young guy who overcame almost dying and playing sports again. And Victoria was in a vegetative state for 4 years. Now she's on ESPN. All I got is my married 28 years and 5 kids. But besides that, it's pretty good. But it is great to get here, and I want to definitely, let me say this. Football has given me more than I'll ever be able to give it. And I often have, and actually Kevin and I were talking before, and You know, I got all kinds of injuries. My shoulders don't work, and everything hurts when you wake up in the morning, and it's, you know, and you look around and going, holy cow, I don't feel great today. And people all the time says, oh, I'm so sorry for you. I said, don't you ever feel sorry for me. Don't you ever apologize for me being sore and not feeling great, because I do it all over again in a second. If there was a magical pill that I could take to go play this great game that I love again, I would do it right now. It's the greatest game ever invented, and I'm thankful. I am thankful for Walter Camp and what he did, and that's why I love being a part of this organization, because it represents Walter Camp. He basically defined the game as we know it today, and that game's been good to me. And not just because I got to play at USC, which is the greatest university ever. All you Notre Damers take note of that. There's not a doubt in the world. And it is good to be on stage with a fellow Trojan and Caleb Williams, who is by far the best football player in college football, and he will be again next year. And not just because I got to USC, and not just because I got to marry my wife, because I wouldn't have done it without football, because my parents were not paying for me to go to USC, trust me. And not because I got to play in the NFL and make more money than I deserve and making the Hall of Fame and all the great awards and sitting up here today. It's not because of that, and the football has given me all that, but it's what it's taught me. It's what it's done for me and the people it's been that it's brought into my life. That I would not trade it for anything. I talk about my wife bringing my life, but I think about the people who helped me get to where I was, and I remember at camp this year when I made the Hall of Fame and I got up and got to address everybody, and up until that moment you think about a lot of things, much like this, being the man of the year. Like, holy cow, man of the year, it's a pretty big deal. And you reflect, at least I do, of how do you get here? How did you get to this moment? How did you get to this point sitting here in this beautiful hall at Yale, one of the great universities, and talking to a bunch of people that love football and with great players and coaches and everyone who's done so much for the game? And the one thing I'll say this is none of us get to the end. None of us reach the summit. None of us reach our goals or what we want to be by ourselves. It's all because of the people that God puts in our lives. And when you realize that, there's a sense of humility that comes, and you appreciate the journey. And you appreciate how you got here. And you appreciate what it's taught you. And the game of football has taught me hard work, perseverance. I love Victoria's story about just like sitting there and thinking through, like, what am I going to do when I get out of this state? That's perseverance. Talked about Braden earlier and overcoming and now playing basketball and lacrosse after having a serious cardiac issue. It's perseverance. That's toughness. That's believing in something bigger that you're going to achieve. You know, teamwork, depending on each other. Caleb talked about accountability. Boy, that's a lost principle in our world today. Being accountable to others and having to show up every day. See, football taught me all of that. Yes, my dad, my family, all were a part of that, but football taught me ultimately that. And the coaches and the teammates that I had. And that's why I love this game. And it's an honor for me to be up here. And I mentioned Caleb, but let me tell you what another reason it's a big honor. Is because one of the men that helped me become who I am is getting honored tonight as a distinguished American in Tom Coughlin. And as I think about the game of football and what it's done, I think about guys like Coach. Let me tell you something. You might as well be honest up here. I absolutely hated him most days when I played for him. Tom had a special ability to drive you absolutely to the edge of the cliff of wanting to kill him. But then he somehow flipped it to where you wanted to kill whoever you were playing that day. And we were joking today, and I love Tom Coughlin. I respect the world out of him. And you talk to anyone who ever played for him, they will tell you they hated him at most days and couldn't stand him at most moments of the day when they were playing for him. But there's no one else they'd rather play for because of who he was as a man and what he got out of you as a player. And that's what the game of football is all about. It's hard. It's tough. It demands toughness. Not just physical toughness either. It's actually mental toughness more than anything. And those are the things that have helped me have success. It's helped me be a husband and a father. It's people like Coach Coughlin, my high school coach Sam Pagano, John Robinson, Mike Mazer, my offensive line coach, John Matsko, my offensive line coach, Mike Berry. I can go down the list of people who poured into my life through the game of football to help me be who I am. And I'm so thankful for it. Because I wouldn't be here. And so I hope that all of us continue to celebrate this great game. I'm thankful for Walter Camp, for what you do and how you celebrate. I'm thankful for all the people in my life, my wife, Coach, love Coach, thankful for him and what he did. He had a lot of dumb rules and dumb things that he told us to do. I got to tell one quick story. I know I said I'd be quick. I promised Sonny and Tom I'd be quick tonight. But Tom had this rule, because he'll never tell these stories. He'll tell all the really good stuff he did, which he did a lot. But he had this rule that you weren't allowed to wear white socks. Does anyone think that has any on the road? So you'd travel as a team. Not only couldn't wear white socks, you couldn't wear tennis shoes. You had to wear sandals or leather shoes. I always said, Coach, tennis shoes are made out of leather too. They didn't count. But he said no white socks. And one day after I got enough courage, because I was scared of him the first 2 or 3 years I played for him, I went up to him one day and I said, Coach, why can't I wear white socks? What will that have to do with anything me blocking the right defensive end? He said, nothing, absolutely. It has nothing to do with anything. I said, why can't I wear white socks? He goes, I don't like them. I said, so I guess that's why I'm not going to wear white socks. He says, you can wear them, but I'm going to fine you. I said, I will not wear white socks. But as absurd as that rule is, this is what it's taught me. You know what? Having people in your life that give you direction and that you're accountable to, might not always make sense. It might not always be perfect. But the game of football is about teamwork. It's about discipline. It's about hard work. It's about leadership. It's about all the things that make the world work correctly, in my opinion. And so that's why I'm thankful for it, and I'm thankful for Walter Camp. Thank you for honoring me as Man of the Year. It's quite an honor. And thank you to my lovely wife, Angie, for putting up with me all those years.